Okay, it's just not on yet.
Right.
Perfect.
You have to start it.
Yeah, so it hasn't started yet.
I put it up there, so.
Okay,
It should be
do you
okay.
want to try it again now?
Let's switch those up there. Oh, let's get rid of this.
No worries.
I'm not sure what this is trying to do.
We've got time,
Okay,
so.
people at home, so
Yeah.
that screen's just for the
This is
people
where we
watching.
get on early, right?
Exactly.
No,
Oh, that's good. Yeah, that's just for here.
okay,
Yeah.
okay.
And if they can see it, great, but if they can't, they won't.
Closed captions, so people that have hearing problems,
Okay.
so they're gonna be listening to us, and somebody's gonna be
Okay.
doing some
The only thing I will say is that our camera never picks up whatever's on the TV either. So.
That's
if you're
okay.
following
I
along
always-
at home, just
And
keep
that's
that in
fine.
mind.
I always do accessible presentation, so I will read everything on the slide.
Okay.
So that's great.
Perfect, yeah, just so in case anybody says something, I don't see
Yep.
anything.
I
I
have
know that
visual-
camera, but sorry.
Oh, no, it's fine, I just moved it.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah,
I have visual disabilities, so I'm very aware of that kind of thing. So
Perfect.
yeah, this is great.
perfect.
All right.
She just logged in, wants me to talk into a microphone or something, see how she hears it, we'll,
Okay.
give it a test.
Yeah.
She's ready.
All right. So I'm going to
Put up on.
hopefully this isn't going to. Oh, that's the password there. Okay.
Yeah, or it's right there.
It's not really going.
Yeah, it doesn't feel cold in here at all. I mean, it feels fine.
So the Tenino exclamation, is that the password for the machine in case it goes into?
In case it goes into sleep mode,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
You'll have to go to the Tenino login and then Tenino one.
Okay.
Yeah. But it takes a while for that to happen, so you might be okay.
Fingers crossed. Although the way my luck is today,
Yeah.
we're not going to be okay.
I'm on a luck streak, so you know, no.
Good. Okay.
Deb, did you try that link again?
Have to remember she's talking to a Deb on the phone.
And is it working?
It is working, I see.
Okay,
Do you want me to talk to them, I can see how it works?
perfect. So we're gonna test all the mics. So I'm gonna mute myself so that you can't hear through my computer.
I'm going to steal this chair.
You ready? We're here at Tenino, getting ready to do our commerce presentation on energy in our city. So hopefully this sound can go through to our captioning and work correctly. Is that working?
Yeah, I can hear you great on mine.
Yeah, I just don't know how.
Are you getting volume? Did you get anything from that?
Did I get it from YouTube?
Yeah.
Yes, I did.
Okay, and you can hear it clear enough?
Well, I'm relying on Teams for audio.
Oh, you're not getting the audio through the YouTube? The YouTube will have audio. The Teams is like a backup if the YouTube wasn't good enough.
Well, if it works though.
Okay, so let me do this then. Let me get out of here and go to the YouTube link where I can have the whole picture.
Okay, so are you leading the Teams meeting or are you going to just like mute yourself and just rely on that?
I can get myself to do that.
Okay, because I'd like to be able to check in with you. We'll do another test with the mics. But yeah, just use the YouTube. You're not going to get any sound through Teams after this.
Okay, I'm stop on mute then?
Okay, so am I, and we'll test the mics here in about 10 seconds.
He did send me a picture of
Okay, what?
Thank you.
and I was like, ooh, that's a statement.
Hey Deb, go talk into, no, you.
For me this time.
Go talking to the mic.
Just wait for Beth to.
Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing.
Does she need to do anything with the mic to make it work?
Yeah, I gotta push the button here.
Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing. Testing 1, 2, 3. Can you hear me? That's a song lyric, but I'm not going to sing it. How you doing on there, Deb? Can you hear me okay? Testing 1, 2, 3. Do you need me to keep talking? Oh, I see. We're going to test the caption. Okay, yes, I do need to keep talking. Okay, so we are in Tenino for a community meeting. And the Department of Commerce will be giving a presentation. She's not there yet. Can I stop now until she's there?
Deb, could you hear any of that?
Now we're not hearing her.
Deb, are you there?
I'll be right back.
Deb, can you hear me?
All right, that's as good as it's gonna get.
I don't know where she's at.
Maybe she was only connected to Teams.
Oh, that's right. So she's in Teams, but she was also in the YouTube, was my understanding. So if we need to do it through Teams, we can do that. It's,
Yeah.
you know, oh, she's typing.
Okay, here we go.
Am I supposed to make the screen look different than this?
I won't know until I can see. I won't know until I can see the caption.
Okay.
When she starts streaming captioning, then we can tell. And she can adjust the font size and everything, so
Okay.
that's what we'll want to do.
You were probably, you're probably muted over on Teams, Deb, which is fine. We're gonna do another test, and if you could run the if you could caption it so we can see, make sure that our screen is working, that would be great. Okay, so we're gonna run our test, and if you could caption it so we can make sure that it works well on our, so that we can make sure it works well on our end, that would be great. Does that work?
Good evening.
Yes, I can see, so we're gonna do another sound test, and if you could caption that, that would be great.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm gonna mute it so it's not coming through my computer, okay?
Just tell me when to go. Testing, 1, 2, 3, testing audio for the captioner for the Tenino community meeting. Awaiting, seeing, captioning on the screen. Not yet. Hey Deb, we're not seeing anything quite yet. Testing, 1, 2, 3, testing. Okay, that's a problem. We're also going to need you to increase the font on the screen significantly. It's probably at I don't know, maybe a 12 now. It probably is going to need to go closer to 16 or 18. Perfect.
That was me.
Oh, that was you. Well, thank you.
Is that good?
Yeah, that's as small as it should go. I have a hard time reading that.
We were talking, so I'm gonna leave my mic open, and you mute yours, and we're gonna see how the mics work with just going into my computer, to see if that's strong enough for you, okay?
Okay, great. Thanks, Kate.
Yep, no problem.
Ready? Okay, testing. 1, 2, 3, testing. Testing, 1, 2, 3, testing. Testing for the captioner to see if she can hear in order to caption the meeting. I'm seeing captioning on the screen. Looks like we might be good to go.
We'll just have to make sure people speak up when they speak.
Yeah, yep, we'll ask people to speak up and always use a mic, either the two mics that, we should test one of the mics at the table. Okay, I'm gonna let Dave
I
test the
think
mic.
it'll all work, so. This is Dave from the city of Tenino, here for the Commerce Energy meeting. kind of got part of it.
That's lovely.
Okay,
Is that working?
it's muffly.
Muffly? Maybe I'm too close to the microphone.
1 second. Okay, Deb?
Thank you. Thanks, Kate.
Yeah, maybe. What's that? Yeah. Oops. There we go. Those.
Yes, I was reminded of that anniversary this morning, and it made me feel old.
It's this.
4 years ago.
Yep.
It's my
I
face.
just turned 11.
11.
So of course it'd be a huge impression for me.
Yeah.
Probably because we have to stay up and watch it.
Yes.
Okay, so what I did was I
10 years
knew
ago, I was 10.
my computer where the sound's coming in is right next to a projector that's making noise. So we're gonna test the other mics real fast to see if that helps with the muffling.
Okay, this is Dave again from City of Tenino.
Up close.
This is Dave again from the City of Tenino, testing to see if our captioning is working.
Go ahead and say something else.
You want me to talk more?
Just one more, yeah. I think
Okay.
she's got it.
We're here with the Department of Commerce, and we're going to be doing a presentation to the public on clean energy in Tenino, and we hope that we have a few guests here to. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you need me to do that here too, Mike?
Have to do this and talk loudly. Well, thank you guys for coming. This is a presentation with the Department of Commerce about some energy opportunities for small towns and I hope this is just isn't for Tenino, but small communities across Thurston County and across the state. It's a great opportunity for small communities to take advantage of hundreds of millions of dollars that are going to be going out for renewable energy projects. And like I've told others, you don't have to believe in climate change for this to be positive. There's a opportunity to save money, keep some money local, and so I think that this could be a good thing for us. And what I appreciate is small towns just don't have the resources to follow all these grants. It's very difficult sometimes to put these grants together. So Department of Commerce has put this program together to help small communities put together grants and projects. So I'm excited to hear what they have to say. Just a little bit about me. I'm on the Tenino Planning Commission. I've lived in Tenino since 2002, and I have solar on my house, so I kind of have some idea how it works, and it works good in this state, even though some people don't realize that these long summer days, solar really puts out a lot of energy. So solar does work in this state. Some of the work we've done already here in Tenino is we have a 64 kilowatt system on our high school that a lot of people are probably familiar with. That was done with a grant through Department of Commerce and also some money from TransAlta, who gave out grants for these kind of things. That's been very successful. And we also worked with Commerce, Puget Sound Energy, the city, on a larger grant that's supposed to be, I haven't heard lately, but it's supposed to be starting soon for a large solar system with battery backup, kind of a test project that would connect to the high school for some backup power in an emergency. We don't really have any facilities where we can do cooking and heating and those kind of things, so that would power the school. So we've done some work already, but there's a lot more that I think we can do. And so I'm hoping that with this program we can look at some other projects that would benefit the city and give some ideas to other small cities to take advantage of. So that's me. I guess I'll pass it off to Deb to introduce her team and what they do. And
Thanks very much, Dave, and thanks for inviting us here. And thanks to the mayor for inviting us here as well. My name is Deb Whitmer. Kate Pedersen, my teammate, sitting over there monitoring things for us on the tech end. And we both work for the Department of Commerce's Energy Division, and we run a new program called the Energy Resilience Program, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about that. Grab my technology here. So I'd like to start out a little bit by just building on what Dave has talked about. This is an unprecedented time in terms of small communities having the ability to actually get some real money to make some progress in their area. It's a tough thing to do, though. So what I'm going to do is give you a sense of the new program that we have built. Let's see if I can get it up here. Slideshow from the beginning. There we go. There we are. If you can see it, I'm also going to read everything that's up here, so I'll be able to explain it. And please interrupt if you have any questions. So we're here from the Energy Resilience and Emergency Management Office. That's actually our office. We serve as the state's emergency management group for energy. And that means when major wildfires take out energy infrastructure, or we have people shooting at substations that cost Pierce County on Christmas Day a huge outage of electricity, or if and when we have a major disaster and power goes out in major parts of the state. Our team helps to respond. It doesn't really matter what the cause is. In emergency management, we do something we call all hazards, which means we don't really care what caused it. We just need to fix whatever happened. That's kind of the same way that I'm looking at what's going on in the world today. We don't have to agree on something called climate change. We're dealing with the impacts right now. We're seeing more fires. We're seeing drought across the state, higher temperatures. Things are different today than they were when I got here 35 years ago. And we need to deal with that. We need to figure out a future so that our children have just as good a life or better than we have. And I think that's a goal that we all share. So in order to help that along, we have the Commerce Department, which has an awful lot of things in our energy division that can work on these issues. And they include the Clean Energy Fund, our State Efficiency and Environmental Performance Office, and that's really about getting our own house in order for state government. Then our Energy Policy Office. We do weatherization work on individual homes and community buildings. We work on greenhouse gas reduction. We work on clean buildings. We work on electrical vehicles, and that is a huge issue right now with the transition to electrical vehicles all across the country in almost every sector. We look at resource adequacy. Again, we have the Emergency Management Office function, and then we develop our state energy strategy. There's a lot of work going on in the Department of Commerce. So what are we talking about energy resilience? What is that? Well, we have a formal definition that my boss likes, the ability of communities to positively adapt to challenging conditions and achieve a high quality of life. And that includes enduring cultural networks, economic vitality, durable infrastructure systems, and sustainable management of resources for present and future generations. I look at energy resilience as how we deal with all the stuff the world puts our way, or puts in our way. You know, the truth is everything we do now has an energy component to it, whether we like it or not. And so it's really key to everything that we have to keep society going and to our health and safety, especially in emergencies. So, as we've mentioned a couple of times, federal government over the last couple of years has passed 2 major infrastructure bills, and they are huge. We are continually, even today I saw another new program come out, continually seeing new things, and not just from the Department of Energy, from the Department of Agriculture, from the EPA, from NOAA. The weather folks have got a coastal grant out for coastal communities. So we've got all kinds of money out there. They will address issues like home energy rebates, weatherization, the Grid Resilience Innovation Program, and that's about trying to strengthen our energy infrastructure across the state. Energy efficiency community block grants, and that's really good for small communities who want to address infrastructure challenges of their community-owned buildings. The Energy Efficiency Revolving Loan Fund, which again is a fund that communities can tap into to borrow money. It's particularly good for working on the planning parts of your projects. Excuse me. And then FEMA has a program called the Building Resilient Infrastructure in Communities called BRIC. This is actually a pretty long-running program. It's going on for a while. It was not recently funded, but it has had a significant influx of new money, and it will come out every year. Most of these programs will probably renew every year for at least 5 years. BRIC will probably be ongoing because it's been on there for a while. It really tackles some pretty significantly large community projects. I've seen everything from replacing entire heating and cooling systems in a hospital complex to wholesale putting generators in 5 different emergency structures in one community. There's all kinds of different things that you can do. The Clean School Bus Program has been bringing money into school districts to help improve their transportation programs. And then actually the Energy Department just recently closed out the first year of an opportunity for the Energy Improvements in Rural and Remote Areas grant. That is particularly focused on communities of 10,000 population or less. And we're finding a lot of communities around Washington state who have been left out of what's been going on with all the growth in the state. They really go, that money is really good for them. The application is very short. Department of Energy finally got a little smart about making it less onerous for some of our small communities, so they're getting a little better. That application process just closed, but it will open again next year. So there's an opportunity to continue tapping into some of these funds. The last I counted, there were 104 federal energy grant and loan programs currently active. That's a lot of money. Some of them have already held their 2023 funding cycles, but almost all of these will be back again for at least 5 years, year after year. Communities can start planning now to take advantage of these opportunities. Many of these grants have no cost match, which means you don't have to put any of your own dollars in the pocket. That's a plus. Or they're very low. Some of them are down to 10%, and that can be matched with your staff time or volunteer time. Again, that's a plus if you're not laying out hard dollars. Funding sources can often be stacked, so you can apply for 2 or 3 of these for the same project and stack those on top of each other. Some of our grants over the years have had a restriction. You can't add additional dollars to it. These do not have that restriction. You can bring in other pots of money in order to bring that pot up, especially if you're doing something that's upwards of 500 million, huge amount of money. You can bring that money together, phase it out, just like a construction grant gets phased out. We can phase this out. So this is a lot of opportunity sitting here, and this is a small list of the 104 programs that are out there, and that's the federal government. We also have money at the state. We have the energy retrofits for public buildings, which includes the Energy Efficiency Grant Program. Oh, yes.
So there was, can you go back, please?
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, that's okay.
Can we talk into that so
Here we
people
go.
can hear us if there's anything on?
Oh, yes. Would you mind using that so that the captioner can hear?
The Energy Efficiency Community Block Grants, is that similar to the Community Development Block Grants where we could have the county as like an entitlement county where every year there would be a lot of amount of money that comes to the county instead of each individual organization applying?
You know what? I have to admit to you two, then I do not have the answer to that question, but I can find out.
Okay.
Would you just write a note down to remind me to check about the EECBG program?
Do you have my email?
Yes, I do. EECBG. And what you're looking for,
Is if it functions similar to
the regular community grant.
block grants,
Right.
and then we could sign up to be in an entitlement county.
Right. That's an excellent question, and I don't know if it's modeled after that program, but that's a great question. I will find out and get back to you. Okay? So then the state does have money available as well. Some of this came from the federal government because we applied for money, but it comes through us. But much of this is coming from our state legislature. Some of this is coming from the funds that they receive in the cap and trade sales, which have been going on and have been actually doing really well. So we have, again, not as much as the federal government, but we have quite a good set of money that are available to, again, targeted at small communities. And so it's available as well. The Solar Plus Storage program is something that I don't know if you're familiar. That may not be where you got your solar installation necessarily, but Kate actually is the energy specialist for that program. So we have our fingers in that program, making sure that we're getting out to communities that they know about that grant. It's got 2 tracks to it. One of them is the planning part, and the other is the actual installation part. There's no deadline. It's a rolling thing, but limited funds, so get your plans together. That's another avenue for getting some solar into your community. Hope I said that right, or she's writing a note to tell me what not to say next time. And then the Clean Energy Fund is a big program with the state. We do electrification of transportation system grants. We do grid modernization funding. That's going to be coming in 2024. We applied to the federal government for what they call formula funds. So it's not competitive. We just had to fill out all the paperwork. We're getting about, for the first 2 years, about $23 million, and then about $17 million every year after that. I hope I have the 17 right in my head, for 5 years. And that comes to us. We're giving that out to utility companies, again, focusing on small and remote utility companies that are doing less than a million megawatts a year. That way, it's not going to PSE, not going to Seattle City Light. It's going to the smaller organizations, the utilities. We're looking particularly to work with cooperatives, community-owned, investor-owned, any kind of utility, as long as it's got a smaller footprint. And this is to help them modernize, perhaps expand their capacity, perhaps build a virtual grid or a microgrid that would help redundancy and help to bring electricity and power into communities that don't have it now or need more redundant and more resilient power. So there's going to be that opportunity will come up in the spring, and we should have 5 years of dedicating funding. That's a lot of good money to go out the door. Our Public Works Board funding for infrastructure construction projects is also up and going. I just saw something coming out about that. I think they're going into their new funding cycle now. So that's another thing to look at if you're doing actual construction projects. And then lastly, the thing that I've been keeping an eye on too, we're doing a lot of work around electrical vehicles and EV charging infrastructure. You may have heard that we've gotten a number of pots of money, including from a settlement from Volkswagen and a couple of other places where we're going to site and put in charging stations all across the state. One of the reasons that our team is looking at that is because we want to make sure that they're looking at priority evacuation routes, so that if we've got a major earthquake and we got to get people out of parts of the state and across the mountains or down into Oregon or wherever people are going, and then we're going to have to get lots of supplies into the state to help us to recover. And we want to make sure, because they may be electric vehicles by then, we've got lots of charging stations along those routes to support our recovery work. So we're going to be doing some of that as well. So again, as I said, the federal government, they put all this money into it, but thankfully they're actually prioritizing those small, rural, remote, and under-resourced communities for funding these energy projects. And so we've taken their lead. Right now they're kind of putting a percentage on it, and some of their funds are strictly only for those small communities. Our program is starting there. We're pretty much only going to work with small communities, probably for the first several years that we're doing our work. I'm going to talk to you just a minute about more of what we can bring to the table. But, you know, throwing money at this stuff is not enough. It doesn't work. Money is not always the whole answer. We need to plug those capacity gaps. Almost every community that calls and talks to me, they just don't have everything they need. They may have an idea. They may even have a small staff. They may have gotten a grant to get a feasibility study. They've made some progress potentially, but they're stopped because of a lack of capacity, or they don't know what to do next, or they're struggling with a really difficult grant application. And those are the kinds of things that our state government looked at and said, we have to do better. And so you got us. I like to say, I'm here from the government, and I'm here to help. And I mean that. Not everybody does. Yeah. Kate and I mean that. Everything we do is based on what you need. We're only here to meet the needs of the communities that we serve. We're not coming in to tell anybody what they have to do, which is sometimes the way state government can work, just between us. Sorry about the captioner, probably didn't hear that, which is good. So we have the new Washington State Energy Resilience Program, and our team fills those resource and capacity gaps, supporting communities to successfully access that funding and accomplish your critical energy resilience goals as you design them. How are we going to do that? Well, we have a framework that we've established. So we meet communities where they are. We're here in an evening because I know that's when you need to be here. Sure, I have to work Monday to Friday, 9 to 5 most of the time, but that's not the best time to be working with community most of the time. So when we do these kinds of meetings, or if we ever get asked to meet or to talk with someone outside of business hours, that's my job, because we meet communities where they are. Our role is to provide support services to empower communities to develop and meet your own resilience goals for energy. Everything we do has to be American with Disabilities Act accessible and in language. Now here, we're speaking English, but we have communities across the state for whom Spanish or other languages are their functional language. We meet communities where they are. I'm a person with visual disabilities, so I'm very sensitive to making sure that everything we do is accessible to people of all abilities. People who don't hear as well as others, people who don't see as well as others. We held this in an ADA accessible space. Thank you. I really love how communities are embracing everyone in their community and their abilities, and we want to support that as well. Community gets to decide what you need, and you're in charge. I'm not here to tell you what energy resilience looks like in your city. You get to decide that. And our engagement work, we want to have sustainable results for communities. So in addition to the projects that you get to do, we want to help you build relationships, and we would like to help encourage an energy resilience mindset. And those are kind of gravy. That's kind of the good things that we can get out of this. If we can build something that is sustainable for you, that's another win. So what do we actually do? Well, we're sitting here doing some of it now. We can do outreach and engagement planning. We can help identify partners that need to be part of your projects. We can help you build MOAs, memorandums of agreement or partnership agreements. We can facilitate partnership meetings, help you do community outreach strategies. There are a couple of grants that require you to submit a plan for how you're going to engage your communities in your project, including those most vulnerable. And that's our strong suit. So we can come and help you to build that plan and carry it out, and that helps make your grant application look a lot better. We can provide community meeting support like we're doing here tonight. We don't always facilitate meetings. I can, but I don't really like to do that because this is your meeting. This is Dave's meeting. This is your meeting. We're here to help. We can provide ASL and language interpretation if anyone had requested that. We put out my information as contact in case anyone needed it. I didn't get any requests, but my standard is to always provide captioning at meetings. It makes it so much easier to hear, especially in what might be an echoey space. This doesn't seem that way, but I was at a Grange Hall not too long ago that was big and cavernous, and this was really helpful. This can be helpful for a lot of things. When I'm sitting in an audience, I often watch the captions just because I might miss a word, or I hear something and it sends my mind off somewhere and I've missed a sentence or two and I get to read what it says. So this is a default for me. I like to always provide captioning services. This is being done remotely. We also can provide technical equipment for remote and hybrid meetings. We brought a little of that today. You've got a great, robust system here that's awesome, but some communities don't, and we can provide that when we need to. We can also do something called visioning and prioritization, which is another thing we're going to do together this evening. We can help communities to do an energy assessment or do a hazard identification study. We can help them do feasibility studies about what their potential project solutions might be. We can do critical energy infrastructure identification and bring in experts to help do assessments of what they need. We can, again, what we're going to do tonight, talk about visioning, goal setting, and project planning. And then we get into the nuts and bolts. When you've got some money and you've got an idea and you're ready to go, we can help with additional funding identification. We can help with applications. I can't write it for you, but I can provide a lot of technical assistance as you are doing that work. We can provide specific technical assistance and vendor identification for specific kinds of technology like hydropower, like solar, all of those different systems. And I want to be clear, none of this costs you anything. This is part of our program budget, and when we bring you these services, it's done without cost. We can do project planning support once you get into the meat of things, technical assistance for maintenance and operations planning. And why that's key is because, again, a lot of the grants ask you to show how are you going to maintain these systems and what's your plan for operating them. And we can help you develop that if that's a need. And then the last piece of this, to me, can sometimes be the most important, because when you take federal money, they want you to report back. And sometimes those reporting requirements can be very onerous. One of the things that, and I was going to say we, but it's Kate, because she's our tech guru and our data guru. She can help build tools that will help you collect the information you need and get it to the feds in the right way and in a way that works for your community and takes some of the burden off of you. And that keeps you in good with the federal government so that they'll give you more money. So those are some of the broad things that we can do. Every once in a while I get asked for something that's not on this list, and as long as it doesn't cause an ethical conundrum within our team or put us in any kind of conflict with any of our policies or rules for the state, I'm open to helping with just about anything. Again, my sole goal is to make sure that you get what you need to be energy resilient. One of the reasons I got into emergency management is when the world goes sideways and something goes wrong, I need to help. I hate feeling helpless. I don't want to sit at home. I want to be of use. For a long time, I worked in mass care, and I set up shelters when the snow fell and when we had problems. That was really directly helping. The job I'm in now is a little different because I'm not going to be on the ground and cutting ribbons and helping you to build things. But I'll know that when the world goes sideways, communities that we've been able to help, you guys are going to do better. You're going to have fewer outages. You're going to get power back sooner, hopefully. Your people are going to have what they need. You'll have your essential services, and your life safety needs will be taken care of. Then I'll sleep better at night. So that's what I'm looking to do. It's not much, is it? So that's us, and that's what we do. I will leave a copy of this presentation with you or send it to you. So it's got our information here. We've got Deb Whippert, met me, Kate Pedersen over there, and Eli King, Elizabeth King over on the end. That's our boss. And I have to give her all the credit because she's the one who envisioned this program. She understood what communities were going to need. She understood that the state needed to do something about it, and she's the one who created this team. And I am very grateful for her leadership. She stands up for us, and she makes sure we have the resources we need to do our job for you guys. So I like to give her a little props. All right, so is there anything that I can answer about why we're here and what we're doing? Yes, sir. Of course.
Any part of your program, does that allow or pay for professional grant writers?
So the question is, does any of our program pay for professional grant writers? Unfortunately, no. We don't have the ability to contract those kinds of services. What we can do is, and I'm an experienced grant writer myself, including federal grants. I also serve on a number of review panels for federal grants, which gives me the other side of the picture to understand how they're scoring these things. Not every single grant that you may apply for, but other programs that they do. So it gives me a little bit of a leg up. So what I can do is help review grants. Kate and I together can do things like, if you need to build a demographic profile of your community, we can help do some of the research around that. If you need to do some specific, because a lot of them are going to want to know the technical, how are you going to solve this problem? What solution are you going to use? And what's the technical specifications of that? We can bring in specialists in those fields from the university, from within Commerce, from some of our consultants, and they can provide that kind of technical assistance. So it's not the grant writing, but even the more difficult piece of figuring out the technology of solar, of nuclear, of hydro, of whatever you're going to do in your community. I'm sorry that doesn't totally help.
Thank you.
Sure. Anything else? Okay. So let's get to the meat of why we're here tonight then. I'm going to take this down and bring up the next one.
Make sure you're close to the mic.
I have a trained stage voice and I just yell, not on purpose. Yeah.
I do too. I can't hear very well anymore.
So you adjust, yeah? I hear you. All right. So we're here tonight to do a visioning activity. And basically what we're going to do is build on some things that we already know about your community. What we were told, I didn't know this stuff. Information we were provided about your community. And we're going to start with that and then have a discussion about what else might be something you'd like to tackle. What other problems are you seeing? What other projects might you have in mind? So we do have 6, and I have 2 slides on this. We have, and you'll also see that I already kind of pre-wrote them on some paper. When we start developing some new ideas, I'm going to put them up here, and at the end of the evening, we're going to take little dots and vote, and you guys are going to vote so that you can decide which ones you think are the most important. And that helps your city council and your planning commission to know what the priorities are of the community. And I'm sure that they'll continue to have these discussions too. So one of the things that these are kind of examples of project goals. You can lower energy costs or provide backup systems for community buildings. So community centers, hospitals, police and fire stations, emergency management offices, school buildings, maybe a senior center, a food bank, any of those kind of community buildings that can provide essential services or that the building could be repurposed in an emergency for something essential. Replacing aging infrastructure just to improve the energy efficiency. So replacing heating and cooling systems. Wastewater treatment plants. We're seeing that all across the state, that they are older, they're aging, and they're not very energy efficient. They're also breaking and need to be replaced simply from age. Some of the funding that's available out there can help with wastewater treatment plants. Replacing backup generators with renewable energy alternatives. I know that a lot of people rely on diesel generators as their backup power. I don't know how much you guys know about this, but the fuel situation in the state, actually it's in the nation, it's pretty much a just-in-time. We can do about 3 days of storage of diesel energy in most communities and in the state simply by the size of what it takes to store that. Whether or not we can get replacement diesel into communities after a major disaster, a major flooding situation like we see up north sometimes. If we have a Lahar situation come down, that's going to really impact infrastructure and our ability to deliver fuels. There's a lot of things that can happen besides just earthquakes that can really damage our ability to deliver fuel in enough time to replace generators. So that's been an interest of a lot of communities. A lot of hospitals, a lot of schools are looking to replace their generators, their fuel generators, with something that's a little bit more robust and that they wouldn't have to rely on diesel generators. So that's another alternative that you can try. Another goal can be provide lower cost power to energy cost burden households. We're lucky in Washington State because we do have a pretty low energy cost, but when you have to pay that bill every month and you're struggling from paycheck to paycheck or Social Security check to Social Security check, it's not an easy thing. We don't want people having to make choices between housing and energy, or between medicine or feeding their kids and paying their power bill. So we'd like to find ways to support to reduce that energy burden. And a lot of our solar installations are a great way to do that. I mean, there are other ways too, but solar is one of those ways. We can store it in batteries that can come in during the night when we don't actually have solar. But we can, during the day, deliver needed power to individual households and community and your government buildings at a much lower cost. You can even sell some of that excess energy back to your power company, and that's bringing in revenue. So all of that is good. Reducing costs, bringing in revenue. I don't see a bad thing about that. So you can also use renewable energy installation to generate, distribute, and store power with the surrounding community. And we have a number of communities that are planning to do just that. It can also provide for additional income on agricultural land. I am really geeking out on agrivoltaics. Agrivoltaics is where they put photocells to do solar on huge stilts above the crops. So that means that farmers are getting dual use out of their land. And there are crops that actually produce better underneath these devices because there's less evaporation, so you need less watering. The shade can help the crops. It's a growing field. I am not a farmer, so I'm not the one to tell you how, but there are a number of groups and a number of farms actually on the east side that are looking at this. Oregon has a number of farms that are doing this. It's becoming a growing area. This is a way to double your income on your farmland. And I'm just geeking out about agrivoltaics. I just think that's great. You can actually drive your trackers underneath them. I just think that's cool. And again, an opportunity to sell generated power back to the grid and actually bring in cash. So those are some of the examples of just the goals that you can look towards, right? Hardening your buildings, backup power, lower energy costs. All of those can be good things for your community. So we were able to identify 6 potential project areas. And again, we've got them up here too. We can reduce energy costs for your wastewater treatment plant. That's definitely a good goal. We can reduce energy costs and or provide backup power for community assets like pumping wells and streetlights. Big cost for cities. We can reduce costs for energy-burdened households and small businesses. We can address high energy costs and need for backup power for food bank cold storage facility. That can be key. You don't want to lose all that food. We can reduce energy burden at school district buildings, and it sounds like you're already doing a good job in that way. If you have additional buildings that you haven't addressed, a lot of this funding will also help to do that. This funding can also provide backup power at community buildings used for mass care services, so sheltering, cooling centers, clean air centers, if you're getting smoke inhalation here. So there's a lot of things that you've already either started to do with the schools or that someone has already sort of identified as, hey, this is something that we might address. So what we're going to do now is talk a little bit about what else Tenino could do, because you've got probably a number of things that we haven't identified. And this is a time for you guys to kind of put your thinking caps on. Let's see if I can go down. One more. There we go. So what we're going to do, oops, I'm going to go back one. I've got notes here that I just need to find.
Probably not a touch screen.
Probably is, and I'm so used to a touch screen that my fingers go to it. Okay, so you might start thinking about, in an emergency, power out for whatever reason. Doesn't matter really why. What are the essential services that your city needs to keep going? What do you have to do? Police and fire, critical. Their buildings, definitely. Their tools, their vehicles have to be fueled, have to be charged, or whatever state they're in. Yep. What else?
Septic system.
Tell me more about the septic system. How is that different? How does that feed into the waste?
I think she means sewer.
Oh, the sewer system.
The septic system doesn't need any.
Yeah, that's right.
That would be individual to a house.
So
Right.
we have a sewer system it's a system of tiny pumps at everyone's house. And then you make a good point, because when the power goes out, do you need police? No. There's a big snowstorm. Do you need police? No. There's nobody on the roads. The fire department, they get around pretty well. They put chains on their rigs. But the biggest issue that I think we've had is we have all these small tanks at everybody's house with a small pump. And when the power goes out, that pump stops working, and those tanks fill up quickly. And then our public works employees have to go around with a major flaw in the system.
And these are the
a
sewers.
generator in the back of the pickups, and they have to power each individual pump at every single flippin' house to pump out the tanks.
It's crazy.
Biggest flaw in the system.
Yeah.
They had to do
Okay.
that for 4 days on Houston Street
Yes.
a couple of years ago. Every day they had to come and pump
Yeah.
everybody's tank out.
Is it attached to your wastewater treatment system?
Yeah.
So
So
the
there's
wastewater treatment system was taken care of, it's not actually just reducing energy costs.
it's,
It's
it's
also.
a separate. There's the treatment plant, and then there's the external system.
Yeah,
The external system is like a series of 3-inch pipes with check valves, and there's low pressure pumps that just move the effluent along. And when the power goes out, those pumps are no longer powered
okay,
at each individual house.
Yeah.
And then an alarm goes off at every house around.
and the power comes from the homes or the?
Yes.
Okay, that was more what I was
Yes.
asking.
So they're individually powered.
Yes.
So there's
Perfect.
probably 600, almost 600 probably in our community. I think it
Wow.
was.
Yeah, give or take 300.
I
So
think
to
there's around
protect
600.
Yeah, there's 800 homes.
800, is that what it is now?
Yeah.
So maybe 800 of them then.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I assume
There's
every
some
home
dual-
has one.
There's some systems that have one house or 2 houses, 1 pump. But it's around 800 homes, and each
Wow.
of those have an individual pump. It's a nightmare. Yeah.
Yeah.
each house would have to have a source.
Or a battery
Or a
backup
battery
of
backup.
some sort, but I mean, that's millions of dollars. in batteries.
Or this is what a microgrid can do. So you put
Yeah.
solar installation somewhere with battery backup, and then you run distribution lines. And that only system only comes on when the major system goes off.
Yeah.
And you run those individual lines into your distribution system, and that powers the house.
Yeah, it's
So-
been an issue once in 10 years. But, I mean, the power was out for like 7 days, and it was a major
See?
issue,
Yeah.
and the public works folks are busy doing that instead of clearing roads, instead of sanding roads,
Yep.
instead of,
Yeah. It may not happen very often, but when it does, the impact is huge.
Yeah.
So low frequency, high impact. That's a big deal.
Hmm?
Yeah, I
it's a
agree.
huge deal.
Yeah,
And one that we haven't heard before, so thank you.
that's true. I
And
have
I'll
not-
bet you it's actually more common in
Yeah, we're
small
not the only ones with a
communities.
system like that.
Yeah,
Yep. I
because
would
it's
know.
like a quasi-septic system. It's like a connected septic
It's a tank, like
Yeah.
a 20-gallon tank in the yard with a submersible pump in it.
Mhm.
And
Just kicks on when it
yeah,
gets to
it
a certain
just
level.
kicks on when a float hits, and then it pumps it up into these little lines, and the
Yep.
pressure builds with the 800 pumps, just pushing it along.
Wow.
And you don't wanna take a shower.
No, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
No, I didn't want to take a shower or drink anything. Do you do boil water notices?
No,
Doesn't
no,
cause
it's
that?
not. It's
Okay.
we don't the water. It's a different system.
Right, but sometimes they
Yeah.
can cause problems, so I just
Yeah.
didn't know how your system worked. Okay. This is a good one.
Yeah, but I think that ties into our wastewater treatment plant, though.
Yeah.
I think the
do
resiliency and keeping that thing running when,
Yeah.
if there's an outage that.
Because that's where this stuff goes, right? It goes into here.
Mhm.
Yeah, so you have to have both up and running.
Yeah.
It's a whole system.
We have diesel now backup for the wastewater treatment.
Yeah, that thing can run independently fairly well, but
This can.
the effluent's gotta get there.
Right, exactly. If this is all out,
Mhm.
this isn't doing anything.
Yeah.
Got nothing to do. Okay?
So I gotta ask on that, so have they looked into changing that system to where it relies more on gravity flow and central
That,
collection points in order to?
They'd have to
that
redo
would
the
be
whole
an
system.
inherently different system. You'd have to completely redesign the infrastructure on the city side of things. Like to have gravity and a step system or whatever else, it's a completely different engineering.
It would be a huge project to try to do.
Yeah, it'd be like, let's build a new sewer system.
Yeah, the treatment plant is uphill, so.
Oh, no, is it?
Yeah.
Slightly, yeah.
It's like-
Enough.
Well, just back to my point, if there was a central collection point and it was narrowed down to, less than 100,
Yeah.
as
Makes
opposed
it
to
easier.
every single individual house.
Yeah, there was talk, when there was discussion about development on a hillside outside of town, some of the developers were proposing, maybe like a combined system, having, some elevation changes, part of the engineering, but, I mean,
New stuff, you could probably do that pretty
Yeah.
easy, but retrofitting the old stuff would be difficult. Yeah.
I just know, relying on anything else, including the microgrid, is not gonna solve that problem. Right? Because then you've got to manage usage,
Mm-hmm.
and you can't prioritize loads in an individual house.
Right.
No, that would be
Just,
tough.
yeah.
Yeah. That'd be a political nightmare. Yeah.
But actually, the drainage pump system's pretty common for wastewater. Pretty common.
So what else? What else do we need? What essential services do you lose, or could you lose?
I think water's a big one, but we do have backup now, power for our pumps, but I
For
think
delivering water?
yeah, there's backup power at the wells, but I think we could improve, like you said, well, diesel will always be available when we get in those situations, so I think water is really a critical thing for our community, so I think some better resiliency for our water pumping systems is one of my things I think is very important.
Okay. Is there any talk about that? Have you talked about this in the community at all? Yeah?
No.
not in that context.
Yeah. This is something that we're seeing money out there for.
Yeah.
So definitely in the wheelhouse. I think pretty much anything that is being powered right now, if you know of a better way to power it, more efficient, a little cleaner, a little less costly, that's what this money will do. That's what they're trying to do.
I just had a question, would it fund to transfer over? We've started the process to transfer from diesel power back up for the water.
I'm sorry, say it again, please?
We have started the process to go from diesel powered to natural gas
Okay,
generators.
okay.
We've got about half of them converted over now, for resiliency. But is there anything to fund to assist with that?
Finishing that? Yes. There are a number of programs that you could apply for money that would finish that work. These do not have to be brand new projects. This money can complete projects that you have that you don't have completely funded or that you're partway through and haven't finished for whatever reason. Yes.
Perfect.
Yep.
Thank you.
And not just for that, but for other projects that you may have going.
Yeah, because Mayor Fournier was very correct when we had the power outage, extended power outage some years back. That it was tough getting diesel. I had to run around and search to really get the diesel that was available, and it wasn't in this county. To go and get it so I could keep my wells going.
Yep.
And my booster pumps going. So
Yep.
that's when I started the process of going to natural gas for some of them. And I would like to actually convert them. Well, it's just cleaner energy, it's better all the way around, so. But then again, I'm only gonna be a little over a year left.
You hand it off to somebody else.
It's not into my watch, but, yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
Hey, on another project, Dave, you can answer, what's the status of the PSE backup
I was just talking about that. I don't know if you've heard anything, Wayne, but,
It's been a while
you-
since I've heard a thing.
I talked to you about that, the whole PSE, and its Commerce grant. I heard that Commerce was kind of pressuring PSE to get it going because it's been, 2 or 3 years at least? And as far as I know, it's still on, but I don't know why if PSE's just doing other things or they're dragging their feet or why, because it should have been started by now. You know, I know COVID kind of put things on hold for a while, so I need to
So the
call.
grant, the money was set aside for that?
The money's still there, from what I understand. Yeah, they're
Sitting
still,
on it.
they're just sitting
Well,
and
you
waiting
got
for
some
them.
Commerce people right here.
Yeah, I talked to her about it a little
Okay,
bit, so.
Yeah, I'm gonna
well,
try to see what I can do on our end. I don't know which shop that's in, so I'm gonna have
Yeah.
to track it down.
It's one of those grants you were talking about,
Yeah.
one of the,
Yeah,
yeah.
one of them it'll be there. And I don't know about PSC.
Yeah.
I don't work with them very much. Like I said, we mostly work with the small utilities. I like to ignore the bigger ones. They're too big for me. But yeah, I'll see what I can do about
Yeah.
getting them along.
And then if you could pass on, for the food bank,
Uh-huh,
I think we're on our 4th or 5th food bank now.
mm-hmm,
We've done Thurston County, Lacey, Sumner, now we're working with Puyallup. And it's a combination of Puyallup Commerce grants and PSE grants. And for providing, first just lowering costs, but the opportunity for backup to keep refrigeration going is there too.
yeah.
So I don't know if you could pass that.
I just talked to them about it, actually, and yeah, that was one of the things that came up, is they were interested if we could put solar on their cold storage building over there. There's a pretty good metal roof already on it, so I think it would be pretty easy, but that would be a great opportunity, because you don't want those things to be without power. They've got a lot of food in there in those freezers, and if we lost
And they
that,
use a
that
lot
would,
of power.
yeah, and they use,
And those facilities are very competitive when it comes to grants
Yeah.
because of them providing that critical service to the
Right.
community.
Yep, and not just in emergencies, but every day. It's
Yes.
Yes.
essential service. I
And-
completely agree with you.
Our lease with them is only required that they cover their utility costs. So anything you could do to reduce the
Yeah.
utility costs would also be good for
yeah,
them.
it just goes back to our
Solar
community,
roof,
yeah.
Yep, absolutely. And again, if they over-generate what they need, they can sell it back and make some money out of it. So it
So
really
wait a
depends on what
minute,
their needs are.
I need to correct that.
Oh.
That's not how it works.
Not here, in PSEs anyway.
Yeah, you can net meter.
Yes.
You can lower your utility bill. They'll take it to 0, but they will not write you a check.
Yeah, we're working on that. I can't promise that we're gonna fix that.
No.
And you're right, with PSC they don't. A lot of utilities do. PSC does
There's
not.
only one utility that does, it's Grays Harbor PUD, and it's very limited for residential. So I don't want to get that out there unless you have a really big power plant and you have a PPA, a power purchase agreement with the utility. Then you're selling power to them, but at a fraction of the cost. It's a wholesale cost.
It's better just to use energy what they,
Yeah.
Oh my God, it's cheer
Oh,
practice.
absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm really,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's
that
better
question that I had, I'm really curious about that. So-
Absolutely, I already got it.
see, Wayne?
But
Thanks.
if you would like to help the solar industry pass the next version of the net metering bill, we would be very grateful.
Our policy folks are working on that too.
Okay?
Oh,
I forgot I broke my motorcycle.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
murder.
We don't have to come pick you up, yeah.
Safety third.
It must have been you forgot the helmet before.
It's his first day riding it, he says.
Oh, seriously?
Yeah, he's had it for a while, but he's been fixing it up, so. For me,
First outing.
one thing that really means a lot would be helping income burdened and fixed income people. That's, for me, for our community, I think it's just a huge thing. If we can get some kind of relief for people on fixed incomes and people, like you said, people that can't afford food and medicine for their kids, I think that is, to me, would be just a huge thing for our community. If we can even make a small dent in that, to me, that is just helping a person. It really is. These other things are important too.
Solar power, right? My son-in-law has Olympic sheet metal, and he talked me out of it. He said, "Why don't you get a heat pump?"
That's
He-
that
well-
is a
So
viable.
I got a heat pump, and it brought my bill down from $218 to $51. This
Really
bill was
nice.
like $65 this month,
Exactly.
but it's gonna be. And I had a contract with PSE, $218 a month for the last 5 years. I've been paying them all year long.
Yeah, and that is another great, I think, point to make is if we can save energy, that is that is, you know, so, but we're never going to get to zero. So my thought is that we had a system that people could, whatever their bill is, try to reduce it as much as you can, but assist them with that, whatever they
We
can.
have a lot of low-income people here in Tenino, and if we can get
Even make it
somehow
small.
get programs to help them, the individuals,
Mhm.
yeah, that would be good.
This is one way to do it. And it doesn't, I talk about solar a lot, because that's just kind of the new thing.
Right.
But heat pumps are absolutely a solution.
Well, I was totally blown out of the water when I got that bill. And then 2 months after I had it put in, and I had it put in last August, 2 months later, I get a bill from them that says minus $99, so I didn't know of anything. Yeah, I was just.
Not bad, not bad.
Yeah.
And there are grant sources that will pay for individual homes. Not all of them. A lot of them are really targeting community-owned buildings,
Right.
but not all of them.
Not all.
There are programs.
That is something that I think is really essential. And if we could get somebody to help the people apply for the grants,
Yeah.
you know, that's another thing.
That's what I was going to mention. I think part of this whole conversion, solar, and all these energy efficiency things, it's a lot of people that are, especially low and fixed, they spend a lot of time just trying to survive. They don't have time to fill all these applications out and figure out how to do it. If we can have trusted community people that are willing to assist these people and basically do the work for them and just say, we've got trusted installers, we've got trusted people that can do this, and say, here it is, put it on their plate. You don't have to do a lot of work.
Community action group.
Yeah.
But it doesn't exist for that kind of thing anymore. I
Right.
had a cousin that needed some help, and she couldn't.
It's hard to get now, yeah.
We may be able to help connect you with folks who can help with that. One of the first things that I did when I first started working with Dave is I reached out to the Centers for Independent Living, which serve people with disabilities, and the area agency on aging, which serves older adults in your county. And I let them know about this meeting, let them know about the advocacy work. I've actually now been invited to come back and talk to a number of those groups because they want to help as well. And so they have folks that would be like navigators that will help individuals through those processes. Yeah, so we can help connect you with opportunities like that if that's something that your town decides to go to.
I just think it's important for people to trust them because, you know, sometimes people don't think, they think that they're just getting sold a bill of goods. So to me, having somebody that's local that knows people, I think that just raises that level of trust and makes people,
Somebody in our
yeah,
area that
they can work on some of
has
that.
a little bit of experience in writing grants.
Yeah.
I'm sure, and that's part of what we can help to find. Yeah.
Right.
You know, that reminds me, the other thing that I didn't say, all of these projects are an economic development project as well, right? And a workforce development. They bring jobs into your community. They may not be forever jobs, but they're good paying jobs. And one of the things that a lot of these grants and all of the money the federal government is putting out, they're making a very strong message that they want to do workforce development around clean energy jobs, which are almost all really good paying jobs and don't need a college education, they just need the training. And we have a number of universities and other training programs that are out there, but small communities like this don't have access to them. And so your youth and your adults who need this training doesn't have access. That's one of the big things that we're taking on, is working with some other partners to see what we can do about bringing that workforce development benefit to small communities. Can we put a program in your high school that will help to educate kids on what their options are in the trades and help connect them with training programs and apprentice programs? Can we find an energy company that's close to your city who's willing to come in and work on workforce development? The other piece of that is that when you do have construction projects or you have big projects that you want to do in some of these areas, you don't always have companies that are willing to come here and do the work. We can help you to find those folks as well. One of the things that Commerce as a whole are doing are putting together vendor lists that are willing to come out and work with small communities, because we are finding that that's a barrier that folks are running into. So again, when you run into barriers as you're going down all these roads, put your hand up, give us a call, because that's where we want to plug in. I feel like the guy, the little Dutch boy, the dikes and the holes and the fingers. What can we do to help plug those holes and get you to where you want to be? And that's some of the area that we can help with.
And if you don't tell us it's a barrier, we may not never know.
Right.
So, you know, we do the best we can to learn, but a lot of this has been learned from communities like you telling us that, hey, this is hard for us. So, and it's not just benefiting you, it's benefiting all the communities like yours across the state.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We first heard that from Diane in Clallam County, didn't we? Yep. And it just happens.
So I want to just answer one question. A lot of people don't know that the Coastal Community Action Program, it's one of the state action programs that provide services for low-income areas. It's based out of Grace Harbor, but they're licensed to serve Thurston County.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and they don't have a big presence here because there's not a great a need as there is like in Mason and Grace Harbor County. But they do have an office over by the mall. But it's called CCAP, or Coastal Community Action
I
Program.
remember it, I'm from Aberdeen, so I
Okay.
can remember.
Yep, it's the same group.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
And NOAA just put out a pot of money for them. Not for them specifically, but for coastal communities.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, we've got some new money in the game.
And then I was going to ask,
Yeah.
oh sorry, does Tenino have an affordable housing like apartment complex?
Not really. It's something we're working on right now. I'm on the planning commission, and that's something we're just working on and are going to have a public meeting on it. So we've really worked on how we can get more affordable housing in our community. So
Well,
it's,
we have Mercy Housing, we've got
we do have some.
apartment complexes, and it's called Mercy Housing.
It's not adequate for the need, I don't think, though. But so it's something we've been working on. But so far we haven't. Yeah.
I have a question for Dave.
Yeah.
Maybe you can, if you're familiar with the school district,
Mm-hmm.
do you know if the school district here has emergency backup power?
They do not at this point. We don't have any place in our community. The fire department has a diesel generator, I believe. I think they're the only one in our city that has any ability to provide backup power. And that's when Kirk was talking about the PSE grant. That's what we were going to do: solar battery backup with power to our high school to provide at least some basic services at the high school.
That's huge. I know in Rainier, they don't have battery backup or any kind of backup power either at the school, and yet that is one of the emergency
Yeah,
shelters.
it's one of the natural places to have something like that.
Well,
Really.
The problem with that is that, things go awry pretty quick because the little battery backup lights and stuff.
Yeah, they're not going to last long.
very
Yeah.
And so I think that's very important for all communities
Mm-hmm.
to have, especially your emergency shelters.
Right.
They need to have that. At this point, I've got them where the public works, the city hall, and there's most of the municipal agencies over there do have battery or do have a backup
System
power,
of some type, yeah.
either diesel or generator or
Some kind of,
natural
yeah.
gas. But the schools don't.
Right.
And in this case, I'm not sure with Tenino, but I know in Rainier that we get our diesel through and the fuel through the school district
Oh, okay.
pumps.
Wow.
Well,
And if they're down.
backup, I was hauling my generator over
Oh, no.
to
Hand pump
pump
it.
fuel for everyone. So I mean, it was not. That needs to. I think that's a really critical.
It is critical, I
And
think.
in some ways, there again, I was asked to assist by Mayor Shaw with Rainier to be here. I'm the public works director for
Right.
Rainier, so I don't really feel it's so much for me to do an input as far as tonight.
Oh, I think it's great.
I live 3 miles out of town and I have my entire life. I've been over there working for
Yeah.
5 years.
But again, I think the diesel generators are great, but like we said, even natural gas. So we have a significant event. Who knows? We'll even have natural gas, or
that's
we may have some propane or something. But it's not going to last if we have something that's going for weeks.
No.
And I think it is beneficial to look at, even if you keep the diesel, to at least have some kind of
There's
more-
nothing wrong with
yeah.
having a backup to a backup.
No.
Absolutely nothing wrong.
Use the clean choice first, and then if that runs out, you start using the diesel.
Use
But-
what you can use. Yeah, exactly. Whatever you need.
Well, there is an interesting tie-in with Rainier. By the way, my name is Kirk Halfman, and I'm the owner of Southside Solar, a local solar installer in Thurston County.
Ah, there we go. Workforce development in the room.
Yeah, and I don't know if you guys have seen it. We did
High school.
install on Tenino High School.
I told them about it when we started, yeah.
And that started this whole discussion about resiliency and backup. They wanted to look at backing up the school, and Dave and I were working together at the time. We're going, no, what we need is just an area like the Commons Room where we can provide some critical needs. You know, the whole classrooms don't need to be highlighted. And we started down that path, and then PSE said, oh, that's a great idea, and kind of took it over, and it's been stalled for a long time.
It's like a $4 or $5 million project. It's a huge project.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's saving the high school a lot of money. I
The system is,
I have no idea, I don't know what they paid, and in.
It's a lot.
high school. But I got a hold of Clint, and he's the superintendent of schools, and he's been out of town, and he won't be back till tomorrow, but he'll call me, and I'll try to find out how much they are saving with that.
Yeah, I don't know what the amount of this on the school. I mean, it's a small amount from what that school, high school, is very not inefficient at all. We went up to look at their heating system. Remember, we went up in the attic. Their duct for the heating system was just detached from it was just blowing hot air into the attic. Remember we put it back together? I mean, that's how old. I mean, that's another project that would be a huge thing that we can. Yeah, but I can tell you from the work we did, we basically took every meter that the school had, every meter that the city had, and started measuring the use. The school was by far the biggest user in our community of power. The wastewater treatment plant was the second. Those were the two big.
It stands to reason then that the rest of the school district is probably a big user also.
Yeah.
The middle school and the elementary school and the grade school.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, so they're huge users, and I want to pull the district into it because we probably can't apply for them. They would have to work with us and maybe in concert and together to do some of this, but they're just a huge user. If we could reduce their use, that would be so good for the school district, save them thousands of dollars, really,
Well, I think
thousands.
it's probably something that we should approach Clint on.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so the same with Rainier.
Do we have anybody online that's saying anything?
No, but the captioner is also saying that
They
she's
can't
having a
hear.
hard time hearing.
Okay.
Oh,
So, I think part of it is the overlapping, which I've told her that y'all are having a conversation. So, either just try and speak louder or use the mic if possible. But we don't want to impact the conversation too much.
Yeah. So anyway,
I just want to follow up with Rainier real quick. So, over 5 years ago, before COVID, we actually won a grant for the Rainier School District to get solar, which could have led to the same, kind of opportunities that got here tonight. And the facilities manager, working with the superintendent and the board, turned it down. And I understand why. They turned it down because, just like her with her heat pump, they had, I think, an old boiler system that needed to be replaced. And the first rule of thumb is energy efficiency, right, and energy conservation before you just create solar electricity that's going to waste. And so through their grants now, they have more energy efficiency opportunities. So it would be definitely something to look for. So there's hitting the energy efficiency in the schools, then look at potentially solar energy generation, and then look at the resiliency if you got a small battery system that could keep, the gymnasium or the commons energized in case of a power outage, where somebody's got somebody place warm and there's fresh water to come to. Yeah, so that's the general idea. And yeah, we were doing that years ago before Commerce came along. But anyway, but it's all good.
Yeah, somebody had to start.
one thing I wanted to say too is kind of my belief is like when we did the school, I think partnerships are critical in all this stuff. If we can get bigger groups together and work together to solve some of these issues versus our little community, if we can work with Rainier to look at a bigger thing, that I think that's critical, because I think we owe our taxpayers to be as efficient with these dollars as we can. So any opportunities we have to work together with the school district, with our other small communities nearby, I think it just makes a project that much more valuable to our people. So I hope when we look at these things, we look at as much as we can doing partnerships with anybody that's willing to. I mean, the tribe would be another one. They have some huge, I think, interest in doing some of this work too.
Yes.
So looking at all those partnerships is something that I think is very valuable for our community to be part of.
Well, let's be honest, that makes your grant application look a lot better. The federal government loves partnerships, and they love partnerships with the tribes. So I say pursue any avenue that supports your goals. Yep.
I guess when I look at this list, I mean, those things are all critical, but to me, they're all critical. Is there a way to kind of meld some of those things together? I mean, can we do something that can solve, our well pumps and also the wastewater treatment plant? Is there a place we can build a larger solar system that can service all those, a couple of those things at least? So, yeah, that's kind of my hardest thing, is how do you put all these pieces together and make the most effective use of what we can get? And, what's most important is most important.
Yep.
But how can we, if we're going to do this work, can we
How can
solve
you
any
put
of
it
these other
together?
issues?
Yeah.
So that for me is that planning part of it, is how that all works together. And so for me, what would be valuable is somebody that has knowledge about how those systems can interact and how we can best use our dollars to solve all these issues that we have.
Yep. One suggestion might be to do a visioning or planning meeting, have us bring in some experts in the fields, in a couple of fields that would help answer some of the technical questions. And I always think it's a good idea to visualize this. How close to physically are these buildings together? Are there any other systems that tie them together that can be utilized? So maybe mapping it all out so that you get a visual picture of, it's this building here, and here's where all where major concentration of the pumps are, or however you can map it out. You might start to you'll see some interdependencies, you'll see some potential opportunities to do projects that will match well together. Maybe one solar installation could serve 2 or 3 installations. I mean, there's a lot of different configurations that you could look at. And we could help bring in some expertise that has some answers around the technology that Kate and I don't necessarily bring, but can answer specific questions about specific sites, about wastewater treatment plants and HVAC systems in schools, and that understand all of that and can talk your language, sir, because you obviously, you're in the industry, you understand this stuff. So I think that might be a potential thing to do in your community, is to have that kind of work, and we can help you to develop and bring in some of the folks you would need to do that.
I think especially with the cost burden households, could we build a system that could just, basically you build a system and they get credit for part of the output of that, or however it works. I don't know how to make it work in this with PSC, because they do have some.
Well, community solar in that regard is an issue.
Yeah, with
not only in the state, but across the nation.
Right.
It is.
Yeah,
So figuring out how to do that, though, how do we, all these small community, probably it would be much better if you could build a bigger system and parcel that out to people versus trying to get a system on everybody's house.
Exactly. Well, I will say that there is quite a bit of political pressure right now on PSE, on Seattle City Light, even TPU, Tacoma Power, those larger utilities, to start loosening up a little bit. Maybe is the better word. I don't know what the diplomatic word is, but there is that work going on. It's not anything that I'm doing or that Kate is doing, but on the policy realm and in the political world, there's a lot of conversations going on with them. Some of those.
You said earlier when we were talking about the individual houses being powered individually, that there could be some kind of a transfer station set up.
Yep. So as an example, there's a group over on the east side of the mountains they have a lot of ground. They are looking to do a solar installation with battery backup. And one of the ideas they have is that they would use that to generate power and distribute it to the homes that are in the immediate vicinity around this parcel of land, who are all cost energy burdened, very low income households. And so it would be direct. So they would have distribution lines or tap into existing distribution lines to send that solar generated power to those homes directly. And that's where they get their power from, a significant part. Now, they haven't done the project yet, so I don't have all of the specifics, but that's the idea, and that's what the money will help to pay for. And it's something we're seeing happening all across the country. So, yes, that is definitely possible.
Interesting.
Yep.
As a matter of fact, the tribes are looking at what they call a virtual power plant, where they do microgrids on a number of different tribal lands and then virtually put them together to balance the loads and distribute the energy through the system where it's needed in real time. It's called SCADA. Am I saying that correctly? SCADA. It's the system that makes sure that the energy goes where it's supposed to. You probably know this, and that all the loads are balanced, that the income and outgo is all at the same that it's supposed to be. So, isn't it though? I just think so too. But the tribes they're making this real, and it's fascinating to watch some of what they're doing. This is Yakima Nation is doing this.
The Swalley tribe is looking at it as well.
Tulalip is also looking at it. Yeah, a number of them are.
A lot
Yeah.
of tribes look into it because they're working towards energy sovereignty versus being reliant on our grids.
Right.
Mhm.
But use the same principle for you
Yeah.
guys, right? Be sovereign and not beholden to PSE.
Oh dear.
I'm not
I think a lot
supposed
of
to
people
do
are
that.
sovereign.
I'm all about independence.
Me too. So I don't, that's my input. I want to try to maximize.
I really like the idea of the food bank.
Yeah, that's a huge one.
That freezer system and walk-in, that reach in and walk in that they have down there is fabulous. Oh my God. And there is a ton of food.
A lot of food.
So you mentioned that you had a significant power outage, what, about 10 years ago? And it lasted about 7 days?
It doesn't seem like 10 years ago, but it was,
COVID totally messed up my schedule, so I don't know.
Our whole grid blew up.
Well, that was what I was going to ask. So it was the
caught
entire
on
time?
fire, I think, didn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
It was during, the biggest one was during the ice storm that we had.
That was a
the
few, yeah.
longest.
Mm-hmm.
I had some areas over in Rainier that was out 14 days
Whoa.
off the grid.
Yeah.
And we went around, and keep in mind, there's only 3 of us in public works. We went
Yeah.
around with our little
Generator.
generators and was charging people's refrigerators and freezers up.
Oh,
We
my.
could give them an hour here and there, just so they didn't lose it.
Yeah.
And, that
Well,
gets
when was
very
the ice
difficult.
storm? I don't think I was living here then, that's been a lot.
Yeah, that was a while ago because I was still,
I think 11,
yeah, it was a,
about 11,
I was here then.
11 or 12.
Well, we had a couple of heavy snowfalls, and the last one was 2016.
Mm-hmm.
That was a big one.
Yeah, that was what, 7 days, 6, 7 days out, I think, most areas.
Yep.
Yeah.
So were you able to support households in staying warm, or?
Well, the one where the grid went down, even took the store and everything, because I'm with the store, so I never go home. I only-
Whoa.
But that was only 3 or 4 days, and they had us up and running again.
Yeah.
I went to my cousin's and we built a fire.
but we really don't have a way to help
Only
people. I mean, we don't
You
have
don't.
anything.
Do you have a facility you could use as a shelter? If you needed to get people out of the cold and into a warm place?
That's the idea about the project at the high school.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, exactly.
Which
Yeah.
Yeah.
We
has been on
have,
hold now for 4 years.
Oh.
yeah, I mean, we have our city hall, which is similar to here, over there, that does have battery, or does have backup power, and it is classified as an emergency shelter, but
Very
very
limited.
small. I mean, you're
Yeah.
very limited the amount of people you're gonna get in there.
Plus no cooking or anything like that. No,
Yeah.
we can do food or
No.
anything. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
It's a roof over their head and that's it.
yeah, I think the school,
It's the way to be.
all the areas, I think all the schools should have backup.
So I didn't get to ask the mayor when he was here, but do you have a plan for how your government is going to continue if you have a major power outage that lasts a week or 2 or longer?
No.
How are you going to continue running your city?
Just do it the best you can. I think it's kind of not. Yeah.
We can't go no more, I mean,
That's one of the benefits to having a small city. You can do some of those things that in a
You
bigger
can.
city is more
That's true.
difficult.
true.
But yeah,
But
I don't think
would-
we have any official plan that I'm aware of that says here's what we're going to do step by step if something happens.
Would it be of value to
Oh.
have energy here that would be backup in case you needed to keep this place running? Or is this not really where the business happens? You have offices downstairs, don't you?
Yeah, this is really where things that
Where
and the
things
fire
happen.
department I think would be in an emergency would be the two places.
Because you've
that
got
would-
public works folks that would need to be getting their jobs and going out and doing their thing, and other folks, you know.
One of the real critical infrastructures, and it has to be the water system.
Yeah, that's what I
You
said.
can get by with other stuff, but you're not gonna get by without water.
Right.
You have to have water.
So if
So-
you do the wastewater treatment plant and you deal with the pumps in each house, does that take care, that's your outgo, and then improve your water pumping systems, does that take care of the problem? Or is there other infrastructure with your water system, that you would need to also harden?
I think ours is gravity fed from a tank that's up on the
Yeah, most of
hill,
it is
so it's
gravity.
mostly just,
Okay.
I do have some that are boosted, but they're
Yeah.
again, they have backup, the booster stations have backup power. And that's why I've transferred to gas versus, you know.
Right. Right.
But, I
I-
mean, that's a critical thing.
Yeah.
You gotta have water.
mine is more the wells getting the pumping the water up the hill to the tank and
Right.
store it, that's where we're using the energy, moving water. is
And that's
always a
kind of what
huge-
this is,
Yeah,
the pumping
right.
systems.
That's what
Okay.
it is.
Okay. Because I agree, water's life.
Yeah, you gotta have water.
Yeah. You can be cold, but you gotta be able to
That's right,
have
you
water.
have to have water.
Yep. Absolutely. Well, anything else, or have we kind of exhausted the well of ideas?
The well.
That was a bad pun. I'm really sorry. I had
I
to.
mean, I don't know, that's why I'd like to have somebody that's really spends, that's what their career is, thinking about these kind of things.
Mm-hmm.
Because, I mean, I kind of feel like these are the important things, but somebody that really, that's kind of what they center their
Well,
training on and knowledge of.
but
and-
you guys in your community know
No,
your best.
I know- I
Bringing
think
an
these are
expert
good.
in here, no matter how smart they are, you guys know your place best.
Yeah, the low-hanging fruit that I see in this discussion, and we've been doing this around communities, one is to follow up with PSC on the high school.
Yeah,
And
I
what the
know.
status on that is. I'm surprised, usually Commerce puts a deadline to that funding.
Yeah, we
usually
do. I'm surprised
Yeah, and but the second one, as I said, the food bank, we've got a lot of those under the belt, and it's just great. The programs
That's a
they offer.
pretty easy one too.
Yeah.
So would you be willing to do a bit of a prioritization exercise? Maybe get up out of your seats
Well,
for
that's
one
what I
second?
was.
All right. I know you were,
Yeah,
but I'd like to see you vote. We're a voting country, aren't we?
yeah.
This is really easy. I'm going to give you 5 colored dots. And you can put them anywhere on any of these projects. You can put 5 on one if you want to. You can put 1 on however you think is most important. But this gives your city, your mayor, your planning commission, an idea of what you think is the most important in all of this. Because these are all important. But what do you do first if you have to prioritize? Okay, I've got big sheets. Only use 5 dots.
We're watching, nobody cheat and put 10 up there.
No cheating.
I trust you all.
Yeah.
Would you guys vote for me too? Not for me, but for
You
Brian.
identify yourself as
So are all the dots of equal value, or is there?
They're all equal.
Okay.
I just like colors.
You want us to all just use one color?
Doesn't
Doesn't
matter.
matter.
Color has no, won't matter at all.
So we can only use 5.
Only use 5.
I'm watching you, I'm watching you.
Vote? You're the reporter.
I'm here to report.
All right. You too.
Yep.
You get to vote. Only use 5, please. I should have cut them off.
You should do 4 next
I
time
know,
within
me
a
too.
row.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
Jen, you can vote too,
Oh, I'm fine.
Come on.
Dave, I'm not sure.
You sure, Jen?
I'm sure I agree with everyone.
I'm okay with that,
Okay, yeah.
because there again, I was asked by my mayor to be here.
It's up if you don't-
Please vote.
That's,
Please tell us what you think.
Yeah.
It's actually
You're-
telling
you're
them.
You're facing the same issues that we are.
Oh, absolutely.
We're doing an activity, not a whole lot of talking that you need to worry about. Deb?
The one that's not on there,
What's missing?
it's over here.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we have 2 more over here.
Oh, I already used 5. Can I use 6?
So it's like- And I don't think that solution solved
Okay,
it,
that's
but
my
still.
5.
Do you want the back?
Yes, please.
Oh.
I'll use it for the next group. Thank you.
If I could share my card.
Oh, yes, thank you. Thank you for coming. I appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm still
Well,
learning.
I'm invested in this community.
Yeah, he's done a ton of work with us. He did.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
So, very much appreciated.
I work with the soil around
This doesn't act.
Yeah, it's kind of the same as the pumping wells, yeah.
Oh, well, I'll let you know, and he'll put it together.
That, so.
Thank you for pointing that out.
Dave, really, this
It's the
and
same
this
as that
is
one.
the same thing. So when you do it, put them together. Because this is turning over to you guys.
So I gotta go get the
I
brand.
didn't introduce myself.
Oh,
Linda
hi.
Goverback. I'm
Hi,
on the
Linda.
city council.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you for coming.
Dave used to sit right next to me.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, you too.
Alright.
I'll check in. Actually, yeah, that's, you can't get an answer. I sent emails to them and they don't.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
It's crazy. I don't know what.
Yeah.
Did you have anything else you wanted to talk about next steps or anything?
No.
As people are leaving? Nope. Okay.
The thing I really want to do is get somebody in here to help us look at this and try to figure out how we can best utilize it. When
Yep.
we look at these things, how do we best
Thank you, sir,
utilize
very
it?
much.
Thank you.
Nice to meet you.
Oh, I'll be there.
Yeah, I was really.
I'll,
Well, it looks like the meeting is breaking up, Deb, so if you want to go ahead and close up shop, I think we're ready to go. Thank you so much for your
I'll
help.
get it down to you. So I'll take it to City Hall or something? Is that okay? Just drop it?
Drop it off the city hall, fantastic. We could do that. That'd be great.
And if anybody wants me to come down and talk about it, I've been
Well,
doing this
that's
kind of
the
stuff.
thing, we
Yeah.
have to- Like I said, Mayor Strock would be here tonight, so he says, well,
You
we
go.
just went down the road.
But I'd be willing to come in like a council meeting or
But I
whatever.
think it is very important,
Yeah.
very important. So, and I think that it's, we covered a lot of good stuff.
Good.
I thank you guys for what you do,
Thank you.
and, yeah, it's been, like I say, I'm not sure I'll see.
Yeah, see the change in it.
Because the last day of next year, I'm done. That's 36 years, that's.
You
That's
can
long enough.
benefit from it as a resident.
Yes, exactly.
And you know, and just because I retired doesn't mean I just go away.
No.
I've served on different boards and different things all over the state, and you know, that won't stop.
Yep.
But, actually, are we done recording?
I think so, yes.
You can be done.
We're done.